Here we go, here we go. Shalom from Jerusalem. A week ago, we woke up on Friday morning to a very different world. And there's a lot of stats to give you, but want to share some of the numbers that we received. The damage from missiles from Iran is so monumentally bigger than anything that we've experienced before. Between October 7th and a week ago, there was something like 2.5 billion shekels worth of damage from the attacks on October 7th, from the missiles that have been fired from abroad, and just in the last week, we've passed 4 billion shekels worth of damage. And the main reason for that, essentially two reasons. One of them is that the size of the missiles is huge. Now, one of the things that Iran has been doing, which is strategically smart when you're giving out information to people who don't really know the situation, but yesterday they hit a hospital, and then sent out a graphic saying that we were hiding tanks under there. Now, the difference between their made-up story and our factual graphics that we made when we would go and have to bomb a building that was supposedly a hospital is that once we went in there, we showed that there were tunnels in kindergartens, and we actually showed the footage. We didn't just make something up and create a nice cartoon graphic. We would go and show that there were tunnel exit piers in kindergartens, and underneath the hospital, once we took out certain areas, we would show that the actual tunnels that Hamas had dug in there, whereas the damage that's being done in Tel Aviv and Ramat Gan up north, those are entirely civilian areas, and this is what Iran has been targeting. The other thing that they did yesterday, which is still being checked, was to use a missile that is essentially against international law, because what it is it's one big missile, and when it's about 7 kilometers above the earth, it explodes and sends out a bunch of smaller missiles. And the reason that's internationally unacceptable is because you can't aim specifically at where those are happening. So what Israel has been doing, when it goes into residential areas and it's taking out these nuclear scientists who very clearly dedicated their lives to creating nuclear bombs that will destroy Israel, and this is what they've said, we're not making this up, we will go in and send a very targeted attack into an apartment, and the rest of the building is fine. That is how Israel has attempted to responsibly address the fact that they hide in civilian areas. Whereas what Iran is doing is just firing into a residential area, and then retroactively, after the fact, they go in and they create a graphic and they're like, oh, well, the reason we tried to hit this is because, they're hiding planes and missiles and all sorts of things like that. The other big thing that's been going on right now is really Israelis are trying to get home. And I think it's one of the most fascinating things that the crazier it gets in Israel, the more Israelis want to come home and be home for it. And I think in other countries, like, the instinct is to get out of here as quickly as you can. In Israel, it's the opposite. We want to be home for this. We want to be in a place where we can defend ourselves. And so a limited amount of planes have been flying in, Israeli planes who are equipped with the ability to defend themselves should they be attacked, and boats all over from Cyprus, from Greece. Israelis trying to come back into the country have been getting on these ships and sailing for days to come home. It's quite surreal. It kind of is reminiscent of like in 19... Let me finish this up after the siren. Here we go, here we go. As I was saying, it's quite surreal because in the early 1900s, you had Jews coming from all over the world back to Israel, and here we are again. And so we've been working, trying to help people get out of the country that aren't supposed to be here, and Israelis to get back home where they belong. And so we appreciate your prayers. What they were saying on the news just now when we went into the bomb shelter was, there was some 23 or 25 missiles fired from Iran, but the problem is because they have these missiles now that any one missile can have 20 missiles attached to it. And so it's essentially designed to try to bypass our Iron Dome. I believe there was 4 places that were hit by missiles, and a 14-year-old right now is in, I'm trying to think of the word in English, not critical, but one step that wounded badly, and a 54-year-old man. And the locations, they're not showing them. Just one was up north, one is down south, and one, maybe one or two in the Tel Aviv area. Again, highly residential areas that have nothing to do with any kind of military. By the way, Israel by default would never put any kind of weaponry anywhere near residential areas. So the idea that we have these locations, hidden weaponry, is so anti our culture, which strives to protect civilian life and give that space and separate between military and civilian. It's just ingrained so deeply in our core. It's why when we fight our enemy, we work so hard not to wound and hurt civilians, even at the price of giving up an operation or aborting a mission. And we could have our target in our sights and see children running around and call off the mission. And of course, our enemies know that, which is why in Hamas and in Gaza and areas around here, by routine, they would always be surrounded by children to protect themselves, because they knew that we wouldn't shoot them. So Iran is less used to engaging us directly, which is why they don't do that, or at least they haven't done it yet. But they are quickly taking on the rulebook of Hamas and creating this swirl of AI footage of destroyed iconic buildings in Israel, and all the stuff about us hiding military stuff. So clearly it's the same strategy of getting the world to protect them because of the love for life that most people in the West have. So that's the update. And again, if you guys want to get involved, you can go to israelneedsme.com, and you'll also find links to the updates here. You'll see projects that we're working on. You guys can give to the War Fund. It's going specifically to help Jews, Arabs, Druze, anyone is in this country that needs help during the war. That is what we're doing. That's what we've been doing for the past 2 years, and we will continue doing that. We have a network of over 100 congregations and ministries in this country, and we're engaging them to see what the needs are, as well as municipalities, and that's what we're involved in. So if you'd like to see the Zoom, it was about an hour and a half of us answering questions. You can go to the Israel Needs Me page and find a link for that there. Until next time, shalom from Jerusalem.